100 Days of Making Comics, Round 3, Week 8. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. We also create comics. That's what we're doing right now as part of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge. This is my third round. That means this is the third time I've done it successfully. Well, I've done it twice successfully. Hopefully this third one will be a success. Hopefully there's no reason why it wouldn't be. I'm doing all right. Last time I think I fell a little behind last week, or that was sort of the subject. I thought I was falling behind just because there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think I'm doing pretty well. Wrapped up the penciling, which is awesome. So today what I'm going to kind of do is show you, kind of recap this past week and show you how I decided to sort of spot my blacks. And if you're not familiar with that term is, that's where when you're working on an illustration, particularly usually a comic book illustration, where your blacks are going to be at, because you kind of want a good ratio as far as you don't want too much black, but you want enough of it, or not at all. I mean, it's kind of weird because in the past I've been, and different illustrators do different things. If you look at somebody like Mike Mignola, he does a lot of black spotting. He's really good at figuring out shadows and everything like that. I'm not so good, so in the past I've sort of shied away from that. And also it's sort of a, it's a stylistic choice too. A lot of people just like a lot of line work and not a lot of black. So, but with this story, I want to do a little different than what I've done before. So I want to have, some heavy blacks and everything. And in doing that, you got to figure out kind of where your shadows are going to be and what types of things. Usually things that are a little bit darker. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when I go into the visuals and I start showing you the process. But obviously if you're wearing a shirt like this, it's black. In a comic, you would just illustrate that as black. Some things that are a little darker, maybe certain things that are red. If it's a black and white comic, you may want to go black. Some things that are sort of in the middle, you kind of want to do some cross hatching, or just some way to kind of show that it's not totally solid. I'm not going to do a lot of that, I don't think. I might do a little bit, but I just want to do some experimenting with this, and once I get into the inks, we'll figure all that stuff out. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But the one thing I wanted to mention real quick is I hit this channel hit 1,000, or sorry, 1,000. That was a little while ago. We hit 10,000 subscribers, which is sort of a milestone for me. I don't usually make a big deal out of milestones, but this is kind of a big one. I'm not going to talk about it much more right now, but I will do a dedicated video later on in the week just to thank everyone and stuff like that. So that's going to be coming up. So just briefly, thank you everyone for making that happen. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, other than that, yeah, we'll get into the drawing quickly. Like I do every time, I want to just mention a little more about this challenge, how it originated and everything. The 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge is a challenge where you spend 30 minutes a day, every day, working on your own personal comic book project, and then somehow on social media or any way, whatever way works for you, whatever platform works for you, you kind of let people know about it, and you give updates, and just so people, they'll kind of hold you accountable and everything. And that's a big portion of it as well. But you do that for 100 days, and at the end, hopefully you've got a little further along in your comic book project. Some people have even completed their comic project in that amount of time. But that's what the challenge is all about, started by Kevin Cross. And what else do I have to say? Other than that, what I'm working on right now is the 100 Days of Making Comics Anthology #2. We've done one. This is the first one. Speaking of Kevin Cross, this is his cover illustration. But it's just an anthology featuring people that have taken the challenge successfully. And we're going to do another round. That's what we're doing. We're in the middle of that right now. So yeah, I've got my story penciled. I'm going to start inking, which is fun. I like to get to that inking stage, and because like I'm talking about right now, is I'm going to try to do a lot of different new techniques and things that I don't usually do, kind of get out of my comfort zone. So that should be cool. And then after that, what I have to do is I have to actually design the cover to the second book myself. So they kind of told me to, well, they did ask me, so, but to do, if I wanted to do the cover, and I was like, sure, yeah, a little hesitant because I've got to you know, make it look, you know, like it can stand next to this one. But anyway, so that's what's going on. But yeah, before, you know, I'm rambling a little bit. Before I do too much more rambling, let's just go to sort of the process, and I'll show you what's been going on this past week. All right, so I thought I would go through some of my thought process, what I do when I'm spotting blacks. Hopefully that's going to be beneficial. The first thing I try to do is try to figure out where my light source is going to be. And by default, I usually, almost all of my illustrations are usually my light source is coming from the left, top left, kind of coming down at an angle. Which is kind of what you're seeing here. So you're going to see all the shadows are sort of going to be to the right because the sun is kind of coming from the other side. Now, this is going to be a black and white comic. I mean, normally your shadows aren't going to be this stark. I mean, you're not going to have black like that. But because I'm dealing with black and white, I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and go a little darker with that. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm really hesitant when I do faces to put a lot of blacks in, because it's just, I don't know, it makes me nervous or whatever. But I usually, you know, a lot of times, like just under the chin, I'll put like a little, you know, shadow there in black, and like under where, if your arms are there, and certain things like obviously this coffee pot is going to be mostly black, plus the coffee's black, so stuff like that. You see right now, before I colored the old lady, I colored her shirt in black, and then I went and changed it because her wheelchair, I decided her wheelchair would look better black, and I didn't want her shirt to be black too, because that would just be too much. And it's gonna, you know, that creates sort of a tangent in a way, not a tangent, but you want different things to look like they're on different planes and kind of be able to be separated a bit. So if I colored everything, her shirt black plus the wheelchair, I think it's just going to be too much, and that's a lot of it. It's a little bit of experimentation. It's just knowing, you know, how to keep everything balanced. This shadow at the top in the hallway, again, pretty stark. Probably wouldn't normally be that dark, and it might look better if I had the back, you know, that back wall where that is coming down black too. But one thing I think this does is it kind of, the way it comes down at an angle, I think it's kind of drawing your eyes towards that center. Maybe that's not exactly where I want your eyes to be drawn, but there's a lot of stuff going on here, so it's not like there's one certain thing that I want you to see in this scene. I want it to be a little bit chaotic, so with all these different angles, you know, that's sort of helpful. The other thing is, if I color that back wall, it's going to, again, bleed into this boy who his hair is black, his shirt is black. Again, too much black, so you got to kind of figure out where to place everything. Now, with this scene, I'm doing something, trying to do something a little different and have my light source a little different, because before we were inside, now we're outside, so the light source can, in this case, is coming from the right, kind of coming down. So you see the shadows are going to be on the left-hand side where the light isn't touching it. And hopefully that kind of breaks it up. It shows you that this is a different scene. And some of it doesn't have anything to do with shadows at all. It just have to do with, like right now with these letters, I want these letters to be dark. I mean, usually if you're drawing a sign, a protest sign like these are, you want that to stick out. So the black against white. It might have made sense for me to make some of these, kind of reversed it, some of these signs, and made white on black. But, you know, typically, and maybe I'm looking too much into this, but when you're designing, usually when you're making signs like this, you're usually doing like a white or a lighter color and going darker. So I just decided to keep pretty much all the tight black on that white board. And again, once I start going into like the crowd and everything, just little things to separate some of the characters, because again, otherwise they're going to kind of bleed into each other if there's too much, you know, not enough shadows. Even though I have a tendency typically in the past to not put a lot of shadows in my work, but I'm trying to kind of get out of that. With the exception of like the main character's hair here, I wanted to show that he's got a dark, you know, black hair. So that's something I'm doing here. The black tie is another example. But then other things like this woman's shirt, just this guy's shirt back here, to kind of, again, show that these characters are sort of little on a different plane and kind of pop them out. This woman here, her skirt and her shoes, I wanted that to kind of pop out. And then a little bit of shadow underneath the desk, not too much. But again, this little vignette with this woman sitting on top her desk, I kind of want you kind of drawn to that, so that black is going to do that. This woman with the long, and also, you know, the woman with the skirt, and then the woman with sort of the you know, kind of the pants. I wanted this separate it just so you kind of know which character it is when you're zooming in closer. Not a big deal, but things like that. Different hairstyles have different texture. The one woman who's African American, because she's got sort of a tight curl, and for that, usually a lot of times if I'm going with a hairstyle like that, what I'll do is maybe just little dots to indicate where the light hits, where in contrast, somebody like this guy here right now, he's got more kind of straight, kind of real glossy, shiny hair, so so it's mostly black, and then I'll just put some straight white highlights. So you want to think about textures and things like that as well. We'll get a little more into that when we get into sort of what I'm doing now with the rock. Obviously the rock is going to have, you know, a different texture than something that's smooth. Now I'm sort of doing the sea creature. Now here's an interesting thing. This particular panel takes place in the Loch Ness, under the lock, whatever you want to call it. But the Loch Ness is very deep and kind of narrow. So this is basically rising from the bottom of the loch, and it's pretty much going to be pitch dark in there. You're not going to see any sun really touching that, so you can kind of play fast and loose with it a little bit. And the general rule, like if you were getting closer to the surface, some of the sun is going to kind of hit that, and you will see, but once you get darker, you're not going to see that. So even though most of this would just be solid black, which is kind of what I'm indicating now, the background, this water, I'm just doing solid black, but I want the bubbles to kind of show up, so keep those bubbles just white, and then a nice contrast with the black. And then just going to do what I would normally do as far as having, you know, sort of the highlight, even though it's kind of an artificial highlight because there's, again, it's darkness, kind of coming from the top and everything. But again, trying to keep it balanced. I don't want too much black, but I want sort of to separate so you can kind of tell what those shapes are and everything. Obviously the character's glasses are going to be stark black. I already did those before. Now here's where the creature's kind of rising, kind of coming out of the water. So here there will be more sunlight. But like with the grass that I just indicated, because this is a black and white comic, I just decided to make the grass black. If I knew it was going to be color, I might leave that, you know, maybe put a little shadow but not solid black, because maybe I'd want to do green, or depending on kind of the color scheme I'm going with. And then there's, you know, devices kind of similar to the coffee cup or coffee maker we did earlier. This time clock is solid black according to the reference. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I could go with like a gray or something and not make it so black, but I think that's going to help pop it up. So the only thing here I'm trying to do is I want to indicate some highlights so you kind of see where those angles are on that particular device. Back to kind of outdoors, this kind of traffic jam in the city. We got a lot of light source here, so I'm flipping back again to where the light source is kind of coming from the top left, and with the windows, I just kind of want to break some of these cars up. I know here in Arizona where I live, you definitely want to have tinted windows. I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but it's so hot here and so bright that you want tinted windows. So a lot of the windows I'm kind of adding black. That would be tinting. Now you wouldn't see that. This is the back side of the cars. On the other side of the freeway, you got cars coming towards us. They might not be tinted because they're, you know, usually I don't think you tint the front windows, a little bit, but not too much because it's hard to see out of them. But, and again, I'm over analyzing this stuff, so you don't have to get too deep into that. But anyway, some cars, you know, obviously are black, so I want to make some of those cars black. The steering wheel, I wanted to do black. Now with the car here, I kind of modeled this off of my car, and my car's black, so I was thinking about doing the whole car in black, but then I thought that was going to be too much, so I think I'm just going to do the windows and sort of the wheels and sort of the shadows underneath that, and I think that was sort of a good choice. It kind of helps pop everything out a little bit, not too much, didn't want too much black on that. And then yeah, so it's just a lot of, you know, observing kind of around you. I guess you get better at it. And I'm not an expert at, you know, spotting blacks. It's not my, you know, I don't usually, most of what I do is very much line art. But again, I'm trying to kind of change that. Now with the interior here, first I started doing it black because I'm thinking of my car, which has a black interior. But then I'm like, wait, usually white cars or lighter cars typically have lighter interior colors. So I'm gonna have to go back and take some of that shadow out of there. Again, probably over analyzing it. But then there's, you know, there's a lot of things you want to indicate, like if, you know, you kind of want your foreground, your middle ground, and your background. You want those to kind of be separate. Now with the black and white comic, you know, you want to, I mean, typically you want to do like your blacks, your whites, and your grays. With the black and white comic, you're not going to really have actual grays unless you do like a shading or whatever. But you want to do things with like feathering and cross hatching to kind of break that up. I don't know how much of that. I'm not really indicating that so much here. I know when I go to ink, I'll probably do some feathering. I don't do a lot of cross hatching because I'm not good at it, and anytime I do it, it just doesn't look right to me. I love seeing that when people do it well, but I've seen a lot of people not do it well, and I don't want to fall in that category. Now, here's the final scene, and I was worried about giving away spoilers, but this story, it's not really a spoilers type story, and this story is based on a song, and the song's available. So this last scene where you kind of see the shadow cast across this little cottage, I was a little worried that it might be a little cartoony, but hopefully not. We'll see once I get into it, because I want to add some different splatters and some effects that hopefully will make it a little less cartoony and more menacing. But yeah, that's pretty much some of my thoughts on spotting blacks. All right, so there we go. So yeah, I pretty much got everything, the penciling, everything digitally I think that needs to be done. Aside from I might need to throw in a few more letters and stuff. That hopefully won't take too long. Hopefully we'll do that next week and get this thing printed out so I can start inking on it, which is exciting because you know, this is the first comic I've done. I've done the pencils digitally, so it's new to me. I'm glad I kind of took that step and everything, and I'm really enjoying working digitally on this stuff. So and even what I was just doing with just kind of figuring out where I want my blacks to be, and it's a little hard to tell right now because, you know, I'm just working with like a blue line drawing. So it's going to make all the difference in the world when I get the inks out and I start working on that. So I'm really looking forward to that. So anyway, that'll be coming up, and yeah, I think getting back on track and everything. So yeah, that's about it for today. Let me know kind of where, if you guys are doing the challenge, where are you at? You know, how's the challenge going for you? I know a few people have dropped off, which is unfortunate, and we've had some backups. But still, there's so many great creators involved in this thing. It's just going to be an awesome book, and I'm super excited and proud to be part of it. So anyway, that's all I got to say today. I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.